Welcome back. Today I'm here with one of the most respected curators in Europe, having led La Virreina Center de la Image, served as a chief curator at MACBA, and directed the Fundación Antoni Tapies. Today, he curates the Spanish Pavilion at the Venice Biennale, presenting Oriol Vilanova's Los Restos. I'm here with Carles Guerra. Thank you very much to be here with us today.
Thank you, Simona. A pleasure to share whatever you want about the project.
Yeah, definitely. After reviewing your absolutely outstanding career and also this press kit, I was absolutely astonished on how you choose to use parts to storytell a vision of a culture. So how you decided to get to this path?
Well, first of all, this is the work of an artist, Oriol Vilanova, with whom I worked on several occasions. The first time we worked together, it was like 10 years ago, approximately, when I was directing the Fundación Antoni Tapies in Barcelona. This building, which used to be a printing workshop, a huge printing workshop. So we install his collection of postcards there for the first time, following this kind of, mural distribution, and also following these different sections of or categories, as we see now in the pavilion in Venice. And back in that time, I mean, we displayed a number around 24,000 postcards, but this was an incredible test because we realized that besides many other different ways of showing his personal collection of postcards, these had something that somehow blended the architecture and his practice. And his practice is very humble because it basically consists in going daily to flea markets and buying these postcards. But it's not that he's buying these postcards as a bunch of postcards. He carefully selects each one of those postcards. So you must imagine that when he's collected more than 200,000 postcards, to pick a new one, it becomes quite of a serious exercise. I mean, Oriol Vilanova, he has to be considered almost like a living algorithm, someone who can really read through many images and then finally select those that are to be part of his collection. So he already had this practice, and then when we were presented as candidates for the Spanish Pavilion for this edition, we decided to come up with this presentation that, as I said, blends the collection with the very architecture of the Spanish Pavilion.
As a matter of fact, I selected these pics behind my shoulders, in which you can recognize the bust, the heads of historical and mythological and different figures, and on the other hand, another wall with unknown for me that I'm sitting here. So it's interesting on how you decide to make different groups in order to help the people, the viewer, to develop his own vision of that kind of topic. How many subjects and how you proceed in this way?
Well, it is actually a system that it has been conceived by the artist himself, Oriol Vilanova. So when I come into the picture, it is because we have a conversation evaluating, I mean, how to make his own private practice into something public. So he is already someone who works with more than 400 different categories in his personal collection, whereas here in the Spanish Pavilion, we have about 200 categories that range from classic sculpture, busts, as you were suggesting, beds, kittens, oranges, bridges, uh, seascapes, lagoons, twin towers, etc., etc., etc. So this is like a pattern he has given himself in order to be able to cope with these massive amount of different images he comes across whenever he goes to a flea market. So basically, he's trying to sustain a daily practice, which which is going to the flea market early in the morning and then buying few postcards also for a modest amount of money. So the basic idea is how to sustain this obsession, this practice, how to make out of it almost like a way of life, something that you have to do first thing in the morning when you get up. That's the reason why Oriol Vilanova ended up living in Brussels, because it's one of the few cities that opens up the flea market every day, almost every day, which is the Jeu de Bal. So the necessity for these categories, it is almost like a basic grid to organize a incredible quantity of images. He's good at actually defining different systems to cope with that sort of overwhelming mass of posters. And he's not always showing this kind of display with that many, like in this case, around 50,000 postcards. He can also present his collection in a very synthetic way with just few picks or few smaller collection of postcards.
Okay, as a art curator and intellectual exponent.
So curators, we also think about the body. So we are not just intellectuals. We also think about the body of
Yes.
people coming to see the things we do.
Okay, I see here, if it's, I can say, a new paradigm in which every one of us can do as a kind of valorization of and research of pieces of art, so of life, and then it's kind of a new frontier. So we were speaking before starting recording about the valorization, digital valorization of arts and heritage and everything. So from the piece of arts from a museum, we can also shift or find a new way nowadays to forge a memory. Am I right? How can you see the future of this? I mean, what is your perspective on the digitalization of the arts? Because now you use postcards, but it could be
Right.
Instagram pics or messages, WhatsApp messages, many things. I would like to know your take on this.
Well, it's a very good question, because when we look at the postcards, we think that this is a sort of all the relicted medium of the past, a medium that it's already become obsolete, and there's nothing we can do with that unless think of the present days with postcards. But because postcards have become this kind of discarded material in flea markets, the fact that Oriol has to reacquire an reorganize and recover many of these, it's already an act of resistance towards that common idea that we live in a world with, too many images to just be able to make sense. Not, I mean, the good thing is that we can always make sense, no matter the multitude, no matter the sheer quantity of images we live through. The difference is I would switch the terms and I would rather say that, the sheer amount of images, it's something that relates very much to the madness of images themselves. So that is different. So we live in a world that is not just us who can really got deranged, but also images themselves are crazier and crazier, and among them they sort of embody like a collective madness. And for us, it is up to us to learn how to live within this collective madness, within this madness that is somehow embodied in images. So I think that, the work of Oriol, it's almost like a perfect laboratory for these dual way of thinking. Some people think, oh, this wall has too many images, we should have less. Or others like me to think that no, I mean, we embrace this kind of impossibility to, be aware of everything, because that is the chance for us to find our own path through that multiplicity, through that myriad and diversity of images. So what I really appreciate in this kind of display is that there is not one meaning. There are many possibilities, many readings, and this is really empowering. This is what I really like, this is what I really like to defend through the project. At some point, I had to really tell myself as a curator, what was the basic idea we wanted to promote with this work. And, we came in a moment when a lot of people expected like political statements, given the actual situation. And of course, we have to be political. We will never cease to be political, but that doesn't mean that the work has to point to one single politics. It can also point to this permanent multiplicity, and it keeps us active and engaged with those walls. So when you enter into the Spanish Pavilion, what you see is people wandering from one wall to another, making their own connections, and somehow making sense by moving through. That's why I said that to be a creator is also to foresee the movements, the choreography of people within the artwork. And I think here it's very, very, very specific in that sense.
Yeah, definitely Spain is really a very important country, and we always expect amazing projects. And I have to say, after reviewing the peaks, and I said, this is monumental because the
Yeah.
walls are really high. So
Mhm.
the layout of the pavilion allows the people to go up and
Mhm.
down, and also uh, to watch and to see every postcards in any corners. And so I wonder how you what do you expect from the people? They want to have a complete vision. I mean, you arrange something, kind of stairs, something like that, because it's really high.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There are postcards which are located or stuck on the wall like 6 7 meters high, especially in the main gallery. Then it's a bit lower, but the idea that we cannot see everything, it's also something we have to learn. We have
Oh,
to learn to
okay.
live with. Okay, so that we cannot. I mean, I don't think anybody can become or can be reassured that he or she has seen every single postcard. which is
That's a
in the
good
world.
philosophy. I mean, so you can't see. That's an amazing answer from you. You
Exactly,
can't
because
expect
normally our
you can't
works,
yeah you can't expect to see everything and to know everything.
exactly.
That's a perfect um,
So we always have a partial
interpretation.
view.
Yeah, definitely. So, how do you think Spain's contemporary artistic scene is evolving? And what does this pavilion reveal about its current direction? So,
Right.
Spain, like Italy, I think we can lead the way in this sense in Europe and worldwide. So,
Mm-hmm.
what
Well,
did
yeah,
you
I mean,
imagine?
we belong to countries that were somehow at a certain moment of the last century um, separated from the current modernity, democratic modernities. So Spain was for a longer period, under a dictatorship, and this is something that, in one way or another, makes a difference. So the art system in Spain is as weak as it can be, in the sense that we have many good galleries, we have many good museums, but still it's a very fragile system. And it's a system that is mostly sustained still by public funding, which is great because for better or worse, it actually guarantees a certain degree of freedom. But all in all, I mean, the example of Oriol is very peculiar. He's actually the first artist to represent Spain in the Venice Biennale who was born after Franco's death. So first time
Okay.
we have an artist who was born in 1980, 5 years after the death of the dictator. On the other hand, Oriol is someone who moved out to Brussels because Brussels is, for a young artist like him, a far more convenient location in as much as it is connected to different flows of art systems like Germany, Belgium itself, France. Um, so in a sense, I mean, the artist is someone who has a tradition but feels the luxury not to be rooted in one particular place, and someone who can really experiment with his own nomadism and with his own will in order to find the best location for his practice. And Oriol is someone who is strongly appreciated among the Belgian institutions, for example. And I must say, for example, that back in Spain, the pavilion is not being reviewed as it has been reviewed on an international scale, which has been absolutely enthusiastic. So in Spain, it's been like a rather kind of lukewarm reception, probably because they don't see Oriol Vilanova as a Spanish artist anymore. I don't know. I mean, it's quite something that we should, try to discover why is it that way.
You have run major museums. Did that experience make you want to break the rules in Biennale in some way? So how did
Mm,
you handle
mm,
the two
yeah,
parts of your career? So what is
right.
to curate a museum and what is to curate an exhibition in Biennale?
Definitely. I mean, to be responsible for an institution is to be responsible for a public program. And when you are on top of one of those institutions, you are not only programming the best exhibitions you can, you are also trying to shape the experience of the people who come to your institution. And you try to make out of the institution like a place to imagine your society, to somehow improve whatever you think it's improvable. So for me, working at institutions is something absolutely revealing, but sometimes it's tough. It's also hard in between different powers. I mean, the boards, the political powers, and also the expectations from your communities. So it is a very interesting position because you actually make the art a place for negotiations, for somehow um, working out a common space for everybody, and that's not easy. So it is in itself another artwork, another form of making art, to shape an institution. Yet, working for the Biennale, as it was this year with Oriol, it's been fantastic because you want to work for a kind of a geopolitical space in which your work it's going to be contemplated and seen among many others from different parts of the world with different conditions. And on top of that, this year, well, Simona, I mean, there were lots of discussions about Israel, Russia, and even
Oh,
US presence in the Venice Biennale. So whatever you do in that context, it's gonna be actually scrutinized from many different angles. So it is very easy to expect like a political reading, and then you may easily think that you have to do something straightforward political. But in our case with Oriol, we decided that this practice, that this individual practice he represents, and the way we presented, it was like renouncing to have only one meaning or one particular direction. And I think this is also this is our common position that politics doesn't have one exclusive language, and much less in the art world. So if you want to make politics, you rather be inventive every minute. And sometimes we'll have to be confronted with practices that do not seem political at face value, but on the long run, they become more effectively politically. I hope I explained myself because, I think that what we see nowadays is that, if you really want to make a political statement, you have to fall into one style. And this is something that back in the 30s, when a thinker like Walter Benjamin already reflected on how to oppose fascism with art, and he was wondering, should I use surrealism? Should I use Dadaism? And he said, no, the best thing to oppose fascism and to be political, it's to generate a situation by which the spectators can really speak by themselves. And I think this is a pavilion that invites every single spectator to become an agent, to make sense out of this sheer number of postcards.
yes, definitely. I think we are assisting very difficult. The phase, the kickoff of this Biennale has been a little bit tricky for us. And so what I have been observing is the politics wants to step inside arts nowadays because it's the most authoritative stage, because nowadays all our stages are crumbling, and
Yeah.
I did on my own a manifesto, my vision, and I said, step out from this because otherwise we are gonna be
Mm.
in a very bad situation if you mix up.
Yeah.
And so I found this really, really annoying. And it seems now here in Italy we had a strong debate on that. And I think it's our role is also to preserve arts and culture far away from
Mm.
this mechanism that they are not born to be involved in art for me. Exactly what
Mm.
you said 1 minute ago. So, and getting back to the Biennale, how you interpret the minor key, the concept, Cojo Uno, the curator and how you express in your work and your
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Kosho's statement about the Biennale was actually released a bit after we have already presented our project. But when I read it and when I realized that his idea was to focus on these discrete practices, minor practices, silent gestures, and on this wealth of small, let's say, woes that nevertheless can actually tell us about new worlds or new possibilities. I thought that the Oriol's project was matching perfectly with that agenda, with that sort of idea. And since Oriol's work is, as I said, something based on a very modest investment, yet is sustained day after day, and at the end, it really triggers these massive amounts of images, this extraordinary complex collection, which he keeps in his own private house. So it is not an effort that it is only to be described in big institutions. I mean, all you see in the Spanish Pavilion fits in a couple of shelves in his own place, or maybe in one of the shelves. So it is a practice that can be compressed, and then you can live with it. That is important because I mean there are so many art practices that come to us after they have been implemented with lots of money, lots of technology, lots of years. Yet you cannot live with them. I mean, they are only sustainable within the context of institutions. Whereas Oriol's practice, as I said, it is a practice that goes from the market to his house, to his little apartment in Brussels, and then to the exhibition place and back to his house. So this particular itinerary tells us about an art form that does not require to live forever within the institution. It can be compressed and decompressed. And this is actually quite a digital paradigm, isn't it? Something that it's very big but can be compressed in order to move, or it can be decompressed if you want to really show it in detail. So I think that I think that Oriol's practice was kind of a perfect example for Koyu's program.
Okay, we are getting to an end. Thank you very much to Carles Guerra, Spain Pavilion. And you find this amazing project until the end of November, of course, in Venice, in La Biennale. If you want to know more, you can go and surf the web. There's plenty of articles and follow
Yeah.
back because Carles Guerra has done an impressive work and will be there soon. And okay, thank you very much to be on with us today, Carles.
Thank you, Simona, and thank you everybody for listening to us. Thank you.